And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast. Unmuted this time. Good for me. I figured out how to use my own microphone, and I am here tonight on another microphone with Carlos. How are you doing tonight, Carlos? This Wednesday, Thursday, whatever evening.
Yeah, I don't know what day it is. I've been nursing this cough for a few days, and I don't feel great, but I don't know. Maybe it's the weather up here. It's constantly changing. It was like 30 degrees yesterday, and now it's like 60, and it's really throwing me off. But that being said, in the world of soccer, so much interesting stuff going on. I just finished watching Atletico Madrid versus Sevilla, and then I ended up watching Union Saint-Gilloise, USG Union from Belgium versus Anderlecht. Great game. A couple Ecuadorians playing in that one.
Nice.
So I've been an afternoon of soccer over here after class. Got one more class in about an hour. Feeling good, James. Lots to talk about, believe it or not. What's going on in your life?
Yeah, like you said, there is a lot to talk about. I think mostly what's going on in my life is getting prepared for Gasparilla. It is this weekend, and if anyone listening in the Tampa Bay area is not going to Gasparilla, what the hell are you doing? That's my question for you. What the hell are you even doing this Saturday? Because I don't know what it is, but I highly doubt that it's going to be better than Gasparilla. Now, unfortunately, Carlos, we do not run a Gasparilla podcast. We do not have a one annual podcast per year, but we do need to talk about the Rowdies and leave the parade for this weekend and then probably never talk about it again until next year. So we'll do that, and we will get into what's been going on. There is, like you said, there's so much to cover, so I just want to say quickly, like and subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on any major podcast platform you can. Of course, that's what we appreciate. And please follow us at RBLR Sports on any social media you use, whether that's Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, whatever else. I know that Eureka, our producer, is running stuff there. So first thing that I wanted to get to is with all the Rowdies news, there is a little bit here before we get into news across the USL. But in a recent press release, the Rowdies announced that preseason starts on Monday, this Monday. I don't know if the players are going to Gasparilla. Hopefully they are all set for afterwards, because that is when they need to get back down to business. And Robbie Nielsen is heading to town to lead things up, Carlos. I mean, I don't know if it snuck up on you. I guess it kind of snuck up on me, but it's weird that January is almost done, is more so the takeaway from this part of the podcast.
Yeah, it's been like rather quiet in terms of announcing preseason friendlies and stuff like that. So I think that certainly kind of contributed to getting snuck up on here a bit. If you've been around for at least a few years, you probably remember the Suncoast Invitational, which happened every year for about maybe 3-4 years. It was always a great time. Played against a few MLS teams. We would get involved in the Florida Cup, and we played like Wolfsburg that one year, which was pretty fun. That was a good game. But like on that side of things, I feel like since the Rays took over, that's been something that we just haven't really heard a ton of. I guess the preseason has been less of like promotional time for the Rowdies, and more so just kind of what it's supposed to be, just prepping for the season. So I guess that makes sense that we kind of got snuck up on a bit. Still haven't heard about anything about any preseason games. That being said, if you look up like Rowdies schedule on Google, there's like a couple matches like slated there for like random days. I don't know how accurate it is. I'm gonna fact check myself. But like February 10th at 3 p.m. it says Atlanta United versus Tampa Bay Rowdies. February 17th it says Montreal versus Tampa Bay Rowdies.
I guess those are probably from press releases from those other teams, right? Because we haven't seen anything.
Right, it's possible. So I mean, it's out there in the public access. But again, we haven't seen anything from the Rowdies, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if those are legit, right? Preseason games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're closed door situations, because we've seen more of that in recent times, unfortunately. But point is, soccer is rapidly approaching, and so is the Rowdies season. February 10th is just around the corner, and if that's accurate, we have a game to play in just a few weeks. So that's pretty exciting. I'm really excited to see what kind of the squad begins to look like under Robbie Nielsen.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we have a new coach that is permanent. That wasn't I guess that was the case with the end of last season. But either way, it's going to be someone that we all expect to be here for like at least the longer term than half a season, let's say. So I think that we can look at this as someone who is coming in with totally fresh eyes. Bring in the players in that he wants in a lot of cases. It looks like we're going to get to one of those in just a second here. But, he still has, I'm assuming, his own stamp to put on this team. And I'm excited to see what that turns into. But one of the players that we are going to have coming up this season, Carlos, I'm going to let you lead the way on this one. But I think that it's stirred up a whole beehive on Twitter of Rowdies fans because it is a huge signing. It is a real statement from this team for the 2024 season. We have signed Jordan Farr in net for 2024. Take it away.
Jordan Farr. I mean, there's not much else to say. If you've been keeping up with the USL, this guy has been pretty universally understood to be one of, if not the best goalies in the entire league. He played 59 matches with San Antonio. 62 matches with San Antonio. Had a great run with them, including a championship, if I'm not mistaken. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he was the 2022 goalkeeper of the year.
That says a lot right there, doesn't it?
Yeah. They absolutely love this guy over in San Antonio. And if you look at Twitter, you'll see that their fans are not particularly excited to see this happen. They're even like kind of in our mentions on Instagram and Twitter, talking about how we really got someone really special. And like, there's no reason San Antonio should have been letting this guy go.
Yeah,
and I tend to agree with them. Yeah, it's really strange. If you kept up with San Antonio at all towards the end of last year, you might remember seeing that they brought in another goalie who was here for like 4 or 5 games. And there was kind of a storyline developing over there because he was really good, and I'm blanking on his name. But they needed to play him a certain amount of games in a regular season to have him eligible to play in the playoffs, right? And what ended up happening over there is that Jordan Farr actually didn't end up playing those last few games, ended up going to this other guy. And I think that's kind of where the discord started between Jordan Farr and San Antonio. Nothing really confirmed about that. It's kind of speculation on my end, but it's also kind of just what fans observed. And it was very strange. So that being said, super weird. It ended up working out fantastically for us because we needed a goalie. We had Phil Brano back. I think there was some expectation that we might re-sign Connor Sparrow, but yet to have heard anything from where he ended up or where he's going.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting that we ended up pulling this off and signing basically the best goalie in the league for the past 2 years. So this is a huge signing, James. It's not really any way to overstate that. It really is huge. It seems like the Rowdies have made a couple splash signings this offseason, and just when you think they were done with making a big name pickup, they had one more in the bag. So really impressive stuff from the front office to be able to pull that off. I'm really excited to have him on this squad.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, he did backstop their way to the 2022 USL Championship. They also like during that time he had a number of accolades that came to hit like just him as a goalkeeper and not the team overall. So like we said, he was the goalkeeper of the year for that season. But I just wanted to read a couple of stats that came out in the press release for it. During a career best year in 2022, Farr equaled the league's single season shutout record of 15 clean sheets. So, I mean, that's obviously pretty good. And if he went through the playoffs as well, recording 2 shutouts there, and they beat Louisville City, as we all know. So, I don't know, I don't know how else to put it here, other than to say that I'm shocked that we were able to get him. Like you mentioned earlier, maybe there was some problem because they brought in Nick Marsman towards the end of the season. I would like to get a bit more input on that from like someone like close to San Antonio, a fan or another podcast or something, because I never really understood what happened with that, why Jordan Farr was suddenly moved out of the first team and they brought in Nick Marsman on loan. I think it was from Inter Miami, but regardless,
super weird.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense that you would replace such a good goalkeeper unless there was something going on. And I didn't see any reports of him having like a bad year. Maybe that's because there isn't enough chatter online, like it doesn't get covered like the Premier League. But to be perfectly fair, though. I also follow like all of the big voices in USL spaces on Twitter. You and I both do, Carlos. So if John Morrissey and Devin Kerr and Mike Watts and whoever else weren't talking about this, I don't know how the hell we would have missed something like that, you know? But anyway, Jordan Farr is a Tampa Bay Rowdy for 2024. And if it turns into us getting one of the best goalkeepers in this league, if not the best, then great. San Antonio's loss is absolutely our gain.
Absolutely. It really is insane. And thank you for finding the name, Nick Marsman, who, by the way, is back playing in the Netherlands. He's from Netherlands originally. Had a few stops at Inter Miami, like you said, played there for 2 seasons, started for Inter Miami for a little bit, ended up on their second squad for a little bit. And that's when, before he ended up in San Antonio for 7 games. So very, very weird. He's now back at Den Haag in the Netherlands. So really just kind of an all-around L from San Antonio.
Seriously.
This goalkeeping situation.
Yeah.
Not only did they lose the guy that they brought in and, kicked Jordan Farr out of his own net with, but now they lost Jordan Farr to one of their direct competitors for a title. So very, very weird. They're having their own offseason. They're making a couple signings. So, I mean, I'll mention one of those later on too, because they're having a pretty decent offseason otherwise. But I think this kind of loss is going to overshadow any game that they pick up this offseason.
I tend to agree with that. I mean, like I said, I just don't understand it. If we get some sort of San Antonio input, then maybe you and I will have a better read of the situation. But at the moment, like I said, if San Antonio wants to, throw away any of their other big name players, we'd be happy to take them. Maybe there are a couple of players on the back line that they don't want to keep playing for no good reason, and they'll replace them with somebody from Inter Miami's reserve team. Yeah, all of you guys, you should call the Tampa Bay Rowdy staff. We'll be happy to have you.
Absolutely.
Now, the last bit of Rowdies news, this isn't directly related to the Rowdies, but it was actually at Al Lang this past weekend. At Al Lang, we hosted Flamengo from Brazil and the Philadelphia Union of MLS. It was a 2-0 win by Flamengo. I don't really think that the scoreline is the biggest part of this because it's preseason, so no one kind of cares about how that part of the game goes. What I just wanted to describe to everyone who wasn't there, there were a couple of Rowdies fans there. I talked to a couple, including some people about the last podcast that we did about the interview with Michael Nanchoff there. So shout out to them. But it was crazy to see how many Brazilian people either came from around other places in Florida. I know there's a large population of Brazilians in Orlando and probably around Miami as well. But there are huge Flamengo supporters groups in both of those cities, and they all came to this game because, if you're living in the States, how frequently do you get to see your team? Not only that, there were people who flew in from Brazil to take in a preseason game in St. Pete. It was absolutely crazy. The stadium was packed. It was as packed as, any championship any playoff game that I've seen other than the championship final. It was nuts, and the fans were singing the whole time. I would say it was probably a larger group than Ralph's Mob and Skyway Casuals, although I won't say that it was much larger. The real difference, it wasn't like the supporters groups being loud. I think that was true for both the Flamengo fans and Rowdies fans in general. I think the big difference was that at certain times they started a chant or a song or what have you. All of it's in Portuguese. I have no idea what it says, but they started these chants, and very frequently the whole stadium, everyone in red and black, got involved singing as well. And I do think that there are moments when the Rowdies supporters groups get the whole rest of the stadium dancing and singing with them. It was nowhere near as frequently as these Brazilian fans. They were nuts, and it was crazy. It was so cool to see. And I mean, no shade to Ralph's Mob or Skyway Casuals, of course. I think that they are doing great work and doing their best every day. But to get the whole stadium involved like they did for the Flamengo fans, it was just crazy. And I would love to see Al Lang like that someday with, a sea of green and gold, obviously, and we're singing those songs. But it's really, really interesting to see exactly, how much soccer can bring people out, how much it can bring out of people. And I really hope that someday there's enough history and folklore behind this club that people look at it the same way that, Brazilian fans, or a certain number, obviously not everyone in Brazil, but a certain number of Brazilian fans look at Flamengo and, the happiness that it brings them, because it was truly like a festival atmosphere on Sunday. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and it's like hard to overstate, by the way, like how large a team Flamengo is.
Right.
Like they are the biggest team in Brazil. There's not really debate about that in terms of like fans and titles, and I mean it's really really impressive stuff. So it makes sense that the stadium would be so packed. It was really cool to see that, especially because I didn't really know about such a large Brazilian population in the Tampa Bay area, but I guess that makes sense, like you said, that there was several groups that might have traveled that did travel from Miami, Orlando, and even Brazil. I did see some Brazilian reporters at the game and everything, so it's pretty cool. It was pretty funny to see. It was red and black, and not. I mean, Philadelphia Union was not really represented in the stands very well. But again, it's a huge club, so it was pretty cool. I like to host these matches. I wish it was us playing instead of like Philadelphia Union.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it makes sense. So preseason is a little delayed on our end. Robbie Nielsen's just joining the squad this upcoming week, right? So not too surprising that we couldn't get involved this early in January. But again, really, really cool stuff. I'm happy we can host games like that. We also hosted like a closed door game between the U.S. national team, quote unquote, and was it Boca Juniors or River Plate?
It was River Plate.
River Plate. So I don't know. A lot of these teams are over here right now. It's pretty fun to host them at our ground. My grandpa's favorite team, Barcelona from Ecuador, Barcelona de Guayaquil, played a friendly yesterday at IMG Academy in Bradenton.
Crazy.
Against NYCFC. So, I mean, I don't know what it is about. Well, I know what it is about the Bay Area. It's beautiful. But yeah, we attract so many teams for preseason, and it's really funny because it's not that well reported on.
No, it's not. Yeah.
But if you keep your eye out, you will see so many different professional soccer clubs, not just American clubs, but like so many different clubs from around the world here.
Yeah.
Especially Latin American teams. It's really funny. So, hey, if you're a soccer fan in the Tampa Bay area, this is a really good time. Just keep your eye peeled. You never know when there's going to be some sort of quote unquote closed door friendly or like very lowly advertised friendly at IMG Academy that's open and free. It's a really good time to keep an eye out for soccer in the Bay Area, surprisingly, in January and early February.
Yeah, and I will say you might even run into people like outside professional soccer players. So keep your eyes peeled. I remember right before COVID, I was actually at a wedding that was in St. Pete, and the wedding was right out off of the downtown strip. So when it finished, everybody wanted to go over there. So we went to, I think it was Parks and Rec, and I happened to I start staring at this guy, and I'm like, wait, that's not who I think it is. And then he notices that I'm just staring at him, and I go up to him and I'm like, are you a professional soccer player? And it was, because I knew who it was. And this other guy that was next to him turned around. He says, yes, he is. And as it turns out, I'm talking to Emerson Heineman, a name that many people might not know. But the other one that I originally started talking to, that I asked, are you a professional soccer player? That was U.S. men's national team defender Miles Robinson. I was just like, oh my God, these are, and yeah, all of Atlanta United was at Parks at Rec for one night, and I took a picture with them. They were gracious enough to, stand the weird guy that had just been staring at him. But yeah, it was really cool to just run into a whole professional soccer team there. And my girlfriend at the time, now wife, bonked one of the players on the nose with one of her wedding things, like a fake flower. So yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, like you said, keep your eyes peeled. They are out and about in the Tampa Bay area, and just hanging around. But with all of that being said, I think we have covered the Rowdies news, and next we have the USL to get to. But before I do that, I want to say liking and subscribing is free. But if you think you might need some new threads coming up for this season, which is about to start relatively soon, you can head over to shop.rblrsports.com and maybe even help out our podcast just a little bit more. There will be a link in the description if you want to do that. And maybe you see something you like there. There is a promo code for 10% off. That is COYR. You can see it. I always get the wrong one. You can see it right to my left, one of those. I don't know exactly how this is going to look for people who are watching it on YouTube, but either way, please check out our shop. I think that you will find something you like if you do that. Now, Carlos, let us get to the USL news that we have around here and start with Las Vegas. Las Vegas Lights have actually been bought and
Thank
by a
God.
former MLB player. I don't know a lot about MLB, so maybe Carlos, you have a little bit more insight on this guy. I don't know, but six-time MLB All-Star Jose Bautista has purchased the team, assumedly with the goal of actually turning it into a real like professional soccer team instead of everything that we associate with Las Vegas Lights so far. Do you know anything about have you read anything about either his plans or did you know about him before this?
So I've definitely heard of the name Jose Bautista. Huge name in baseball. Even played for the Rays for a season, by the way, back in the early 2000s. Yeah, I spent most of his time with Toronto Blue Jays, but again, this doesn't really matter for the point of the USL. Point is, it's a really big name. He's got a lot of money behind him.
That's positive.
Yeah, exactly. He's from Dominican Republic. It is really random. Um, but we've seen a lot of random characters get involved in U.S. soccer and turn it into a productive product, um, whether it's in LA or I don't know. I'm just thinking about the LA celebrities, but you got my point. In several teams around the country, there's plenty of random players and actors, whatever, celebrities involved. So not unprecedented, but I think pretty random at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely.
I haven't seen anything about his plans, but whatever his plans are, it can't be any worse than where like the state of the club has been the past two,
Literally.
3
Yeah.
years. So I'm excited for them. It's better for the league if like teams exist and do things and sign players in the off season and
That's
not like
a
scrape
good
together.
way to put that.
Yeah. So I mean, look, I don't know anything about Jose Bautista's ability to manage the day to day operations of an entire soccer club. I'm sure he's got people under him that'll do that for him. So we will basically have to see what happens with that. But my yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what to say. I'm pretty excited just because it's like someone and something is happening at Las Vegas Lights. It feels like it's been a really long time since anybody has mentioned their name in a positive way.
Exactly.
So I'm pretty excited. I think it'll be good for them, regardless of what he does. Again, it can't be much worse than what it's been in the past few years. So big name in baseball. Interested to see what he can do in the world of soccer.
Yeah, I went to Las Vegas Lights a couple of years ago. I think in 2021, at the end of 2021. Anyway, I was talking to the fans there, and this was our last game of the season. So we were just having a good time. This was the year that we won the league by the record number of points. So yeah, I think that was 2021. But the fan that I was talking to was telling me like, we don't even know what's going to happen this off season. So we're all just kind of happy to be here right now and be with each other and hanging out again because at this point who knows what's coming. And they survived another 2 years and apparently got bought by someone who hopefully, like you said, has a little bit more interest in actually putting some investment into this. So I hope that guy is still, coming around to these games, and hopefully he will also be joined by a lot more fans in the future because they will actually have a product to go and take in. But yeah, I'm excited for them overall.
Exactly.
The next thing that we wanted to talk about, Carlos, is Rhode Island, who continue to blow the league away in terms of expansion
Insane.
teams and just show us how it really should be done, I guess.
Yeah, they are not messing around. They went out and just said, "Screw it, we're gonna build a super team," and picked up Albert Dequa from Pittsburgh. By the way, Pittsburgh, what the hell are you doing? I mean, they're letting so many players go
This is
and
like a
not.
San Antonio move again.
It's absurd. It really is absurd. And I keep seeing Pittsburgh's fans on Twitter like going a bit crazy, and I would too because they had the league kind of in the palm of their hand and they choked in the first round. But the team they had was incredible. They were regularly beating us this past season, and they were. I think they were pretty destined to win a title last season. It's really surprising they didn't pull it off in my mind because I think they were the best team in the league last year. Um, and instead of kind of like going like, oh, we have unfinished business, they're letting a lot of their big players go. And Rhode Island is taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
Albert Deke was am I mistaken? Was he the Golden Boot winner last year?
No, you got it. You got it. He
Yeah.
was.
I mean, the best striker in the league, I think, last year. So I mean, it's really, really incredible, and I'm admittedly a little scared of what this team can do when I thought it would be kind of a pushover in their first year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly, what things are going to look like in terms of them putting all of this together. It's easier said than done when you have, a bunch of top players like we've seen. I don't know. I feel like we've seen this more in MLS than we have elsewhere, but there have definitely been teams that are like, we've brought together all the best players we can, and then it kind of gets really difficult to manage all of these egos or whatever. I don't know how big of an ego you're going to have at the USL Championship level. Hopefully less, but regardless, it is going to be interesting to see how they actually put it all together and whether or not they even can. So, regardless, they are starting off on a very good foot, and we should definitely keep an eye out on how that turns into for 2024 as one of our big rivals, probably in the Eastern Conference. So,
I mean, Dequa
for
and JJ Williams up top is just absurd.
yeah,
That's
exactly,
absurd.
exactly,
So I think like you said, it's gonna take them a little bit to like get the hang of it, find that chemistry because it is bringing together a team that has quite literally never played before, people from different clubs around the country, in some cases around the world. So I don't think it'll be great right off the bat, but it's not going to be long before they're beating teams up left and right this season for sure. Like they have the capacity to do that. Give it a month and a half maybe, and I think they're competing easily for a playoff spot. Easily, I think more slightly less likely, but very possible, like a top 4 finish in the Eastern Conference for sure. I mean, they have the players to do it. It's a matter of putting it together.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly correct. And from one completely unrelated Rowdy story to the replacing of a former Rowdy, let's say. Carlos, you wrote this one down, so I will leave it to you.
Yeah, I have to find my unmute button. I'm still like coughing. I'm trying to mute like every time I'm coughing. If you see the video of this and you see me dying when I'm muted, that's what's happening. All right. Yeah, this is huge. Memphis bolstered their attack this offseason after a kind of like back and forth weird situation with Kyle Murphy, again, former Rowdy. He ended up kind of surprisingly retiring this year. And Memphis said, screw it. Let's go out and get one of the best strikers in the league. They picked up Nico Brett, a guy that was kind of on my offseason wish list, but I'm not complaining with who we got, by the way. Yeah, they're looking good. They're going to be competitive. I'm not going to say they're, putting together a super team like Rhode Island, but I mean, this is kind of the way you want to go. If you needed a replacement, Nico Brett, I think, is more than just a replacement for Kyle Murphy. So big signing for them. I think huge in terms of just having a good striker. They kind of lost the stability of Kyle Murphy. This is big. So again, another big attacking piece moving in the USL to an Eastern Conference team. The Eastern Conference is just stacked every year, it seems, and it's getting better
Yeah.
and better. This offseason, like we've said, has been kind of riddled with big transfers. And like I want to say like more than half of them have been in the Eastern Conference. I mean, this conference is loaded. The league is really good. The team quality is getting better every year. This is a huge pickup for for Memphis, and a huge loss for Birmingham.
Yeah, I also have seen some Birmingham fans grousing on Twitter about just how their offseason is going, kind of where it's going. But I wouldn't say that Nico Brett is like the best striker in USL because Albertiqua probably is right now, but he's definitely up there, right? He's definitely up there. So I think that Memphis is, yeah, they're really trying to boost themselves after probably a lesser season for them, at least in their eyes. And I think that is a really good way to do it. Carlos, you wrote a couple more of these down, so I will list two of them here, and then we can talk about them. Notably, Augie Williams has moved to Indy 11, not one that I saw coming because
Yeah.
I figured Charleston Battery will want to hang on to him, but fair enough. And Phoenix Rising has reacquired Rocco Rios Novo on loan again from Lanús. He was with them last year on their way to the championship. So, yeah, Augie Williams leaving Charleston Battery. Don't understand that
Huge.
because Charleston Battery are like one of the big teams in the USL now because they got. I think a significant portion of this comes down to Lee Cohen, and I'm just going to keep banging that drum because I think it's true.
They should
And
have won the title last year. They had it
exactly,
in the palm of their hand. They really
yeah.
did.
No, I totally agree. I mean, Even the fact that it went to penalty, they should have won it on penalties when they were in there. But that's another story. The reason they didn't win it on penalties was Rocco Rios Novo, who is back in Phoenix.
Yeah.
I don't know. I watched some Argentine league last year, and I don't remember who was in net for Lanús, but it can't. I honestly would be surprised if Rocco Rios Novo isn't already knocking on the door for their starting job. So it's kind of interesting that he is back here. I guess that they say, like, if you're not a guaranteed starter, we want you to be somewhere where you will be a guaranteed starter. And he was doing so well for Phoenix. Send him back there. Both of these moves are huge. And, Indy 11 is another team that every year I would say they have a good start and then they fail at, like, a good roster is what I mean by that. And then they fail to put it all together into something where they can go and challenge for playoff spots, for trophies.
Yeah.
But I mean, Augustine Williams, this is one of the best strikers who has existed in the history of this league. You've got Dane Kelly, who leads in goals in the USL Championship. And I don't know, like, if Augustine Williams is second or third or whatever, but he is always someone who is scoring a lot of goals. And he has been in this league so long that, he has a track record of doing it. And I don't
Yeah.
even think he's like late 20s at this point. So I'm just kind of surprised that they would
26,
let
yeah.
somebody go like that.
Yeah. 29 goals, 63 games for Charleston is an impressive number. I mean, he single-handedly carried their performance here against the Rowdies.
Yeah.
Back in Outling, if you recall that. Just an insane, like, individual performance by him. So that's huge. I mean, we saw that he hadn't been re-signed by Charleston. Again, he was on the offseason wish list, just lofty, big name striker that played really well against us.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it seemed like it was kind of a matter of time until Charleston re-signed him. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'd be entirely speculating why he left. I'm assume it's probably like financially related.
Right.
USL teams don't have a ton of money to re-sign some of their best players. So this was like all that surprising necessarily, but it is pretty surprising that Charleston, I guess it took this late for someone to pick him up too, because we're kind of at the end of January. Most of the big transfers have been made already, I guess, but sorry. It still feels like we keep seeing a lot of big transfers the past week or so. This is certainly one of them. So yeah, maybe Charleston was kind of going back and forth with him the past couple months, but ultimately, I guess it didn't work out. And yeah, he's making a big move and a pretty big move in the Eastern Conference. Pretty big move in the Eastern Conference for Indy, who again having a good offseason. We'll see if they can put the product together on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Another player that Phoenix has acquired for the upcoming season is forward Remy Cabral on loan from the Colorado Rapids. He had 19 goals for the Rapids 2 in MLS Next Pro and actually was the Golden Boot winner, according to your notes here, Carlos. Now, I will say I don't know a ton about Remy Cabral. I think that he was brought in. So I know that LA Galaxy signed Kevin Cabral originally as a designated player from France. Kevin Cabral is the brother of Remy Cabral. He was brought over, Remy was, as like kind of a bonus. It seems like, if you are signing this player as a designated player, maybe you have the money to just go out and bring his brother along because that's probably good for morale. And neither of them has really worked out. I think Kevin Cabral was then sent to Colorado Rapids because he wasn't really good enough at the Galaxy. Remy Cabral went with him because you're already there. You might as well just do that. And like you had written in the notes, he had a very good season with MLS Next Pro, Colorado Rapids side. And if he can carry that over into the USL Championship, then this is another really good signing. Now, I don't know the exact difference in level between USL Championship and MLS Next Pro. I will say there are, regularly 15, 16, and 17-year-olds in the MLS Next Pro, if not 18 and 19-year-olds. So that's mostly what the teams are going to be made up of, or recent college graduates. These are all players who are trying to make the jump into the professional league. Someone who has previously been in a professional setup like Remy Cabral was. You would expect him to do well there. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will translate to the USL Championship. At the same time, that is an extremely impressive record, and I do expect it to translate over to Phoenix getting, some good numbers out of this guy.
For sure.
But with Rocco Rios Novo back in net, Remy Cabral up top, and they have a couple of other signings made that we haven't talked about already. They're looking good. And I will say I need to correct my record on this because I don't know how many people were listening a couple episodes back, but we were talking about other USL news, and I had mentioned that Phoenix replaced Juan Guerra because Juan Guerra was going to MLS. I said that Rick Schantz was replacing him as the coach. That is incorrect. Rick Schantz replaced a former coach, and then they got rid of him, obviously, when they brought in Juan Guerra. So they did not bring Rick Schantz back. I was looking at an old tweet when I had written that down on our notes. Instead, Danny Stone is their manager, and he is the guy who will be leading all of these players. So they are changing in the front office. They are changing things in the locker room. It's just, I think that they are trying to gear up, to do the best they can to do a double or a repeat. That's obviously extremely difficult, no matter what level, no matter what league, sport, anything. But they're obviously going to try to do it, and I think that they're making some good acquisitions on the way to making that run.
Yeah, it's certainly as of now, I don't imagine it'll be an Arteaga for them to put up insane numbers like that, but
Right.
I think we can expect some good amount of goals from him. 19 goals, Golden Boot winners. Definitely not anything to just kind of throw away, even if it is an MLS Next Pro. I would say it's kind of like scoring 19 goals on a bunch of Loudoun Uniteds and Atlanta United 2s and New York Red Bull 2s, if you recall those teams when they were around a bit more. So again, like still professional level, developmental, but 19 goals is 19 goals. He is a true goal scorer, and I think we'll have to see what he can do in the USL. But again, I think I'm going to follow your train of thought here and say he'll definitely put up at least solid numbers. Uh, Too early to tell. I think if I was going to make a prediction about if he gets to double digits or not. I don't know. I really don't know how this Phoenix Rising team is going to shape up next year. I don't think it's going to be like as good as it has been in past years, but
that's just hard to keep up.
Yeah,
that same
exactly.
level.
Exactly. And but they're going to be solid, and Remy Cabral, I think, will be a big part of competing for a playoff spot at least.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We usually see them doing that. So if they are not within that, then something has gone dreadfully, dreadfully wrong. And Carlos, this next one is another one that you put up there. I'm going to leave this to you because you have done some research on somebody here, and it is, as you said in the notes, quite random.
Yeah, this was super random. I opened the USL website today, roughly about an hour ago. It just came out. I'm gonna butcher this name. Richard Winbickler. If that name's not ringing a bell, it shouldn't. This guy is an
Don't
Austrian
worry.
defender. Yeah, you're good. This guy's an Austrian defender. He is 32 years old. Super random. Veteran of the game, though. Looks to be a really solid defender with stops in the Austrian Bundesliga, the Korean League, the Danish League, the Chinese Super League, and the Australian A League. So this guy's been around. He's played with some really decent teams in his time as a professional soccer player. Again, 32 years old. Seems like a really good pickup for them. I'm not going to lie. It struck me as a little funny just because of how random it is. This is one of those off-season random signings that I like to point out because it's how the hell do you make this connection? Doesn't matter. Point is, he's here. He's going to be a good addition, I think, based on what I know, the little bit of research I know, and the little background I know about Richard Winbickler. Yeah, he'll add something to the back line for sure. It seems like a veteran defender. SAFC San Antonio is regularly a great squad, regularly competing for a title. Let's see how they shape out this year because they've lost a few big players, including Jordan Farr. But we mentioned this one a couple episodes ago. They did pick up players like Luis Lignac, but bigger than that, Juan Agudelo. And apparently have strengthened the back line with Richard Winbickler. So I'm really curious to see how they shape up. It's going to be a good team. I don't know if they'll be competing for a title. We'll really have to see. But it truly is looking like a decent squad. And this signing in the back line, albeit however random it is, looks to be a really good addition, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if he's gone all of these different places, as you said, then he is worldly at the very least. So San Antonio seems to, they are always good on the defensive side. We know that, and I assume that he's going to add everything that he can to that particular part of their roster. Now, the last bit of news we have that is related to the USL is a team coming to the USL League One, and that will be in 2025. Naples, Florida, is getting a team that year. Yeah, this was an interesting one, Carlos. When it came out on Twitter, I wrote that there was another team for the Rowdies to go beat up on, and some people were like, they don't play in the same league, right? And I was like, it's all for fun, man. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be
We
anything.
can
We
see him
can
in the
play
Open
them.
Cup.
Yeah, exactly. We could play them in the Open Cup preseason. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're just being silly anyway. I hope that we don't like go and just beat up on Naples,
Yeah.
especially if they are in
More
a different
preseason
league.
games.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just cool that there's another team in Florida, and that means another rivalry, especially for us here on the West Coast, because we have a rivalry with Orlando that Orlando fans are, the worst people in the world, and I think that we can all agree that that's definitely true. Miami FC down in South Florida, they are unfortunate because I don't think Miami fans give a hoot if you are a second division team. I mean, Inter Miami have
I think
trouble.
I think they barely give a hoot about their own team or
I was
any
gonna
other
say,
team. I'm
yeah,
not
like
so I have very pointed opinions on the state of soccer in South Florida, but take it away,
yeah.
James.
They have trouble. They have trouble bringing in fans if a very certain one player is not at those games. So that's all. That's all we'll leave it at with Miami. So we've got two teams coming online in Jacksonville soon. One in
That's gonna be
our league, which
weird.
will be nice, and it's just nice that there is another team coming to Florida. And I'll be interested to see what the branding is in Naples and everything. It's
Yeah.
close enough that I'll be able to go to the games if we do end up playing them, whether that's in preseason or Open Cup or what have you. Maybe we'll have, I hope that there will be some type of collaboration between their club and ours just because we're so close. And I think that's really neat that honestly, the other thing I saw this online too is that it's just soccer is growing in America. If there is a soccer team somewhere that is strong enough to not go bust after 1 or 2 years and paying the money out that they have to,
That's the
that's
key.
awesome. That's awesome, and good for them down in Naples. I hope that I wish them all the success in the world, unless we play them in the Open Cup, and that is where I'll leave it there.
I would love to go visit Naples, Florida for a Rowdies game. I feel like that'd be a good time. Um, yeah, I love away games in the Open Cup, especially local ones. They're
Yeah,
fun. Um, every once in a while, I come across like the highlights of the Rowdies versus VSI Tampa Bay in like Plant City back in 2013.
yeah,
I think that's so funny. I'm not saying Naples is going to be a VSI Tampa Bay. I'm sure they're going to be a much more legitimate club. Um, so I'm happy for I don't know the city of Naples. I think it's fun. Yeah, it's close enough to go check out a game if you're ever in the area too. So more soccer is good soccer. You mentioned Jacksonville. I really want to talk about Jacksonville, but that's going to take so long. I'm not going to lie. Jacksonville just looks like it's going to be weird. Like what the hell are they doing? It's like Armada and also the other team whose name I'm blanking on, the USL team. That's going to be really interesting. So maybe don't put two teams in the same city in Florida, especially when they're going to struggle to draw attendance for one of them. I don't know how two of them are going to be sustainable. I'm really curious to see how that plays out in Jacksonville. But yeah, it's funny. Like I was on Jacksonville like sports Twitter, just peeping the replies. There's so many people in Jacksonville so confused about what team is what. Like
that's
there's
so
like
funny.
sports reporters that were confusing Jacksonville Armada with the USL Jacksonville team. Like it's going to be so confusing for locals over there who like haven't even embraced soccer already to have
Right?
two
Yeah,
teams.
exactly.
How the hell are you going to explain to them like, oh, there's another team in Jacksonville? It's not the one you've heard of before. It's a new one. The one you've heard of before is playing with B teams in the like. I don't know. It's gonna be weird. Keep an eye on that. I think we can do a whole episode on the Jacksonville soccer
I was gonna say
situation.
maybe we should. Maybe we should. Now I do get fans or just people in cities not understanding the difference between the two teams. It pisses me off a little bit that there are reporters who can't figure that out. I mean, for the love of God, this is your job. Like, if you're a sports reporter, you don't have to know all the difference between all the soccer leagues in America. If you're a local sports reporter, most people don't have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. I understand that. But for the love of the Lord, you cannot go online, Google search, and be like, okay, this one's attached to MLS. This one is a separate entity, and they're trying to do a separate one that isn't in MLS. God. Anyway, that is neither here nor there.
I don't
Carlos, we're
even
gonna.
blame them. It's so confusing if you don't know anything about soccer. Like, it's so weird. Like, it's just like the end goal, the end of this. I know we're talking about Naples. I'm sorry to take the attention off Naples if you're from Naples, but like the end of the Jacksonville saga is that one of these teams will go defunct. And it will be sad either way because the USL will lose a team, or we lose a pretty cool, I think, brand in the Jacksonville Armada to the gutters of U.S. soccer,
Because they
which
joined a dumb league.
yeah, arguably they might already be in an MLS Next Pro. So it's unfortunate. The Jacksonville Armada like core group of fans are very, very intent on supporting their team, which I understand. I think even they understand like they probably made a dumb move and joining MLS Next Pro. And but there's so much to talk about there. And honestly, maybe we do like a full on like deep investigative report into what the hell happened in Jacksonville because there really is a lot to talk about
I think it'd be cool to
up
do a
in North
Jax
Florida.
episode.
Yeah, yeah. I'll write that down. Eureka, write that down. You write that down for me?
Hey, Jamie, write that down.
Hey,
If
Jamie,
I
write
can.
that down.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that is all the Rowdies and USL news that we have for today and tonight. So we'll do a quick couple of things in our extra time segment. Tune into the RBLR Deportes show that is coming out every week. We cover all of the local Tampa teams on the Deportes show in Spanish. If you can speak Spanish, that is obviously a great one to get everything in a super quick time frame.
And if you want to
And
learn Spanish, that's a great place to start.
exactly. I am learning Spanish, as I've said a couple of times. I am about to take my last grammatical course tonight, and then it'll be all conversational after that. But this is helping
See,
me. This is helping me because you're supposed to do conversation. And obviously, this is somebody who is having a conversation about something that I'm already interested in. So it's very cool. And the other one that we have, of course, is the Tampa Bay Sun program here at RBLR Sports.
yep.
Please tune into that when we have those out. We are covering the Sun, obviously, whenever they give us news. At the moment, unfortunately, it is a little more dry than the Rowdies. So we will wait until they give us something. But the other thing that I wanted to point out, if you don't think that there's enough soccer going on in your life, maybe you are someone who is unlike me and you're not catching every single game that's on TV. Well, guess what? There is a little bit more that you can add to your schedule because the Asian Cup and the AFCON tournaments are going on right now. And oh my goodness, there are so many surprises at every single stage in this tournament. It is absolutely insane. And I mean, it's so fun to watch. Now the groups are gone, so it's all knockout and it's one game, one and done. It's going to be probably even more surprises, obviously, but several favorites have been knocked out of each tournament. Former winners in Africa, Tunisia, Algeria, and Ghana are all already out. Ivory
In the
Coast, who
group
are
stage.
hosting, were almost knocked out. It's just
Yeah.
it's absolutely crazy to see like where things are, and I encourage everyone to tune in if you can.
The AFCON is so chaotic. Like
It's nuts.
if you have Bean Sports, you should be watching. If you don't, I'm sure there's slightly less illegal ways to watch it on the internet. But like this is one of the most entertaining like round of group stages I've ever seen in my life. It's so funny. Like it's just chaotic. Like there's great games and then there's like a couple games between like really, really good teams and a team that you would think is not that good. That somehow pull off like a 1-0 result in like the
Yeah.
80th minute or like 0-0. There's been a lot of 0-0s, but they're like entertaining, if that makes sense. It's
It's
super
still
chaotic.
there's so much riding on that being a 0-0. Like the one that I wanted to point to was yesterday I was watching to see Namibia play Mali and Tunisia play who was the other South Africa. So if the scores remain the way they did when they started, which was obviously 0-0, then the way that it went through was Mali won the group, South Africa was second, and Namibia was third, which sent Tunisia home. Now, both of those games ended 0-0, and you don't think that's very entertaining, but it was absolutely crazy. It was absolutely crazy to watch this because Namibia won their first ever game in this tournament, and in so doing, when they got the tie yesterday, they moved on for the first time ever as well. Tunisia, like I said, they go home in the group stages. it's just it doesn't, if that doesn't sound like it's all that entertaining to you, then you're really missing something out on this, because it is really like emotionally up and down and up and down. But there are a bunch of teams who have won their first ever game and they moved on. Palestine, Tajikistan, Namibia that I already said, and another that I'm missing here. But yeah, there are a bunch of these. So if you want drama, there's so much drama, and I would suggest everybody tune in.
Absolutely. It's a great way to end it. James, I think it's time we wrap it up.
Absolutely.
On a personal note, I have class in 10 minutes, so I will be sprinting over to that course. But James, it's been a great episode. I think we covered a lot in just a short amount of time. Be sure to follow at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, anywhere their social media exists. We are there. Follow me at Carlos TPA10. A lot of Rowdies content to talk about now. A lot of USL content to talk about. And as always, use hashtag AskRBLR to prompt us with any questions you might want to ask for the following episodes. James, how do we find you on Twitter?
Yeah, I am at RBLR James K, and mine has mostly been about AFCON and Asian Cup, especially Namibia. So if that's what interests you, then that's where I am.
Sounds good. Finally, like and subscribe to our podcasts. Get the full experience on YouTube. See me dying as I mute myself with this cough in the background. And we're on Spotify, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Apple, we're on Google Podcasts. Find us wherever podcasts exist. We are there, James.
All right, for another week in the books, closer to the season starting. Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.